Hello YouTube, this is Royal Gaming, and today we're going to do the Ceroli bosses and show you the quickest way of defeating them. So this first boss is Wafora. So we're getting set out here. What you're going to do is you're going to go to the corner. You may see some people do this. You're going to try and stay on the outside edge, like I'm going to show you here in a second. As best you can, because sometimes there's an AoE that gets this big red circle AoE that gets dropped in that corner as you go into, and you kind of want to be mobile enough that if it does get dropped in that corner, you don't take the damage. But I mean, if you're not too worried about it, then you can stay in the corner about 70 to 75% of the time. So it's going to drop this AoE. This time we were really lucky, it's right there. Sometimes it's flipped, and then if it's flipped, you would want to try and get out of it. So you don't take the damage. We're going to work on taking it down here. So once it's done with its AoE and you got healed from that little green arrow circle area there, you're going to go back in the corner because you're going to want to avoid the next round of attacks, which are going to happen here in a second. It's going to do a horizontal and vertical arrow rain. So if you stay in this corner, it's going to avoid all that. So once you're past the first part there, which is the harder part, you usually can avoid most of the damage here. Sometimes it does do an AoE in that corner again, and you're going to kind of either eat it or you're going to try and avoid it. You kind of want to try and stay mobile. But as long as you can stay away from that first one, it's usually not too bad. So it's going to do it again sometimes. You can try and stay in the healing if you can, but it just kind of depends on your luck. So we're going to keep working on it here, and then we're going to skip to the final part of the battle. He goes into rage mode. Basically, he does extra damage and stuff. Basically, he's going to start spawning a bunch of those little circles with AoE. You're going to try and avoid them as much as you can, because if you get hit by any of them, or a lot of them at the same time, you're going to get wrecked. So you try and avoid that. You can kind of try and move it towards the middle if you want, but we got kind of lucky here. It really didn't do too much in the area where I was at, so I didn't have to move too much, so I got lucky it didn't have to move. But we defeated it there. That's basically how you do it. Take it to the corner and all that. And then these are the rewards that you're going to get for hell. The next boss is the ice boss lady. I don't exactly remember her name. Offhand, it's the ice one where she's got the big thing on her head and stuff. Can't remember exactly what this one's called, but it's like the ice boss. She does like a big ice AoE in front. That's the second one to the left, I think, on the Ceroli bosses. She does these little AoEs. You want to try and avoid them if you can. You're gonna keep working on it, and she's gonna slowly but surely enrage to do this like ice AoE that's like a big 360. But you're gonna work on avoiding these little AoEs at the start and just kind of having a tank in the front, and everybody else hits on the backside. So we're still working on it here. I'm gonna skip here pretty soon to the final parts where she does that big 360 here in a second here. And I brought Tamaris with this one so that you get a debuff on her, so that she does more damage to her. If you're a support class, it's best you bring something that's going to help your other teammates out. Just a tip for that. She's almost going to enrage here. It takes about two minutes or so. She does this ice up thing. Getting close here. She keeps doing that AoE. There, she iced up. Okay. And then I'm going to skip again to where she does the 360 here. So basically you fight the ads on the side, and then she's going to, in like a minute, maybe a minute and a half, she's going to do this big ice AoE here in a second here. And you're going to make sure you avoid that by staying in one of the farthest corner away from her. So this big AoE, and you want to stay out of that or you're going to die if you're not a tank. If you're not a tank, you're going to get destroyed by that big AoE. And you're going to go back in, put your tank on one side, and keep doing the same thing you were doing. And then we skip to the end here, the last couple of percents, but we're defeating the boss. You want to keep all your tanks on one side. We didn't really do that, but it's not that big a deal. We got it defeated, and that's all that matters. But that's basically how you defeat her. Keep your tank on one side, everybody else on the other side. Avoid the big AoEs, the little AoEs, and then you just go back in and attack her. And then the rewards for that, same thing as the last one. Then we're going to move on to the next boss here in a second here, which is the one that you need 2 tanks for. This boss, you need 2 tanks for this boss. Let's see if I can catch the name here real fast. Astrid, you need to do 2 tanks for this one, because if you don't do 2 tanks, she does like at the beginning there's like this AoE that does a debuff on you, and if you're in that area of effect, you take a debuff for like, I think it's 1 minute, and then it stacks up longer if you are in it longer than 1 time. But you want to have 1 tank on like the top side and 1 tank on the bottom side, and then everybody's on the either side, doesn't matter, but whichever tank is actually tanking, you basically want that person to be tanking, and then the other ones are on the other side not taking any of the AoE damage, because if they take any of it, the second round she does increased damage to anybody with that debuff, and it's like a 180 degree fan. So if you get hit by that, you're basically done. So if you don't really understand that, a lot of people don't understand this boss and lose a lot. I just kind of wanted to make this one, especially a video on this one, because people don't understand it. So we're going to get started here in a second. We actually didn't win this one because of that on this one here, so I skipped some of the parts, and I did finish it later on a different team and stuff, but I just wanted to show you kind of like what happens whenever like all the AoEs and stuff here, once they happen here. In a few seconds here, once everybody ready's up. Okay. For this one, I think I still use Ardent Tommy because I got a debuff on it, and it helps out to have the debuff at any time. You can use Kira, also it helps out a lot. If you have a max Kira, you can use that for support too. Use it with any other archer commander. You think Nebu or something like that works too. So we're gonna work on getting this started here in a second. So like I said, I'm gonna go up to the top here, and then the other tank's gonna try and go to one of the other spots. This one doesn't work out as well because there's also this thing where you get this arrow on top of your head, and if you don't get away, it does a 360 AoE, and everybody gets hit with the AoE, and you don't, and you kind of have to get stuck on the second round where she phases with everybody having a debuff. And on this one here, the tank that was supposed to tank didn't tank. The person that was supposed to get away, I don't know that they got away in the right way. I tried to avoid it here because I wasn't working on this one with everybody I know, so I tried to avoid it so that I could tank the next round, because I know what happens here, because most people already, if you can see, have the debuff, and I don't. But what happens here, I think, is I get the debuff at some point. We end up failing because not everybody understood about the AoEs, and we got to the last like 10%, and we were all basically done, and we couldn't beat it. So that's basically how you defeat that boss. Now this is the boss that has the Lohar. This is going to be a different boss than the last one. It has this little Lohar on the ground. Basically what you want to do is every 25%, so this one's at 75%, you're going to basically kill this little Lohar. It's going to pop a shield. You're going to get inside the shield, so you're safe away from this 360 AoE that this boss is going to do. If you're on hell difficulty and you're not a tank, you're going to definitely die if you're not inside the shield. You can also bring some instant proc damage with the 3rd skill and the meteor if you want, so that you can kill it really fast and not have to worry about it with, like, I brought Alex and Harold because it does instant proc damage sometimes. You want to avoid that big circle AoE as much as possible. Have your tank on one side, like a lot of other bosses. You want to have your tank on that side, and then you put everybody else on the other side. Now I skipped to the last part here. This is where the boss enrages. It's about the last 25%. There's going to be little ads that spawn. You want to try and have an AoE commander with you, like YSG, so you don't have to actually target these little things, because you get increased damage from the boss, because it gets a stacking on the left, it goes all the way up to 40 stacks. You take extra damage. If you kill one of the ads and get in that bubble, clears all your stacks, you go back down. But basically you want to do as much damage here as possible because you're on the clock. And if you don't do enough damage, you get defeated because it enrages. So we won that there. Then I'm going to skip to the next boss here in a second after we show the rewards and that we won. Okay, this boss I did on a different account, a smaller account, but these are the bosses where there's two bosses. So what you want to do is you're going to drag your tank and everybody up to the left-hand corner. You're going to have your tank taunt one of them, and then what you're going to do is you're going to bring both of them over in the corner so you avoid basically the big AoE donut-looking things that happen from the Darkness boss. And you can, if you bring an AoE commander like Nebu, Sun Tzu, YSG, something like that, you can hit both bosses at the same time. That really, really helps because you're doing a lot of extra damage to both bosses instead of hitting just one and you split them up and all that stuff. But this is where you don't even have to move once you get your tank in the right spot. You don't even have to move. You literally just have to stand here. This is the easiest boss, I think, because all you have to do is stand here. You basically taunt it, you drag it over here, you just stand there. You just do a bunch of AoE damage, and if you are T5 with the like Nebu and YSG, which I would recommend the most, double AoE does a lot of damage. Guan Yu, some stuff like that could also work. But basically this is on a smaller account, so we got limited options. I did it with a friend. She helped me get this all done on my other account. And just to show you guys how this works, if you have one support, it kind of helps. You can do some extra damage and stuff, but you should have at least one tank, at least 3 DPS, and then at least maybe one support if you want so you can heal, but you don't really have to. But this is the AoE I'm talking about, so as long as everybody's on the left side here, you're not going to get hit by this big AoE that's going to happen. If you're not the tank, like I said in other ones, you're going to die if you get hit by it. If you're a tank, you might survive. It kind of depends on what your tech is at. Actually, like if you're T5 or not, you'll survive. If you're not T5, you may not survive. They basically, each round here, they're going to swap to each different boss. They're going to swap roles, basically. One's going to be darkness, one's light, and they just kind of swap. But this boss really doesn't matter when you're in a corner, because you do take increased damage once they swap and stuff, but once you're T5 and stuff, it doesn't really matter too much, and you can get this completed and done if you just stand in this corner and you don't have to move. You just get it done and out of the way. So if you found this video helpful and you found it informative and stuff, drop a like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, leave a comment down below. We defeated it here. So thank you for watching and have a nice day.